hard. But taking accountability in every situation as much as possible. And you let me know if I do that or not, because they say women, we don't know how to take accountability. But I'm trying.
That is true.
One way that I've noticed that it can occur, not just with me, but just in general, I've seen people do it, is when it comes to race.
Yeah.
Let's be honest.
I've said this statement before. As I get older, I'm starting to wonder, is it because of race, which I doubt, or is it just more so their family paved the way for them?
Yeah.
Because if we have our own business and it's a multi-billion-dollar business,
I'm hiring everybody I know. Yeah, you get a job. You get a job.
Exactly.
Everybody get a job.
You're gonna hire people who you know, who are competent, who you trust.
Yeah.
If you're surrounded by black people, they're so happen going to be black people. Why I make that statement is, in modern times, when I look globally of what's going on, I see that everyone in America, including black people, are very fortunate.
Yeah.
And I think, unfortunately, sometimes it's the victim mentality
that makes us think otherwise.
That makes us think otherwise. Not that racism doesn't exist. I just don't think that it's enough to hold you down forever. Like, you might experience a setback, but it's not enough to hold you down.
I see what you're saying. See, here's my take on it, because welcome to the NOIRPOISED podcast, where wisdom is power is more than just a motto.
It's our way of life.
There's this one thing that I've been trying to work on, I think, my entire adult life. It's all the way around. It's like it's across the board, I guess you could say. And that's playing victim, being accountable for myself and taking accountability in every situation as much as I can. It's hard. But taking accountability in every situation as much as possible. And you let me know if I do that or not, because they say women, we don't know how to take accountability. But I'm trying.
That is true. I'm not gonna lie. I think there's something that I don't want to cut you off. Go ahead.
But as a woman, I have heard that so many times that I'm like, I don't want to be a part of that standard. Yeah. So I really do try to take accountability. And in one way that I've noticed that it can occur, not just with me, but just in general, I've seen people do it, is when it comes to race.
Yeah.
Let's be honest.
I've said this statement before, and I've always gotten pushed back from black people. Yeah. And the statement is that,
I think we've had the debate multiple times too.
My opinion.
Yeah.
I do believe that we live in the greatest country on earth. You're one of the people that disagree with me, but
because that times have changed.
Yeah.
I don't necessarily disagree with you anymore.
Yeah.
But when you first said it, I was like, what? But what experience do I have? I'm born and raised here in America. Like, how am I supposed to know what other countries are like?
Usually what people will say as a defense of that, or to go against what I said, is they'll bring up race. They'll say, America has a racist past. America still has a racist present.
This is true.
Not to say that racism doesn't exist, because clearly it does.
Obviously.
I saw a survey that said actually that 75% of black people or black Americans say they've experienced racism to some degree. I'm actually shocked there's not more than that. But
I think it depends on your environment. Some people are not around other races to actually even experience it.
And I think sometimes too, I know I did this when I felt like I was experiencing racism, whether it's in the workplace or something. I questioned myself, like, maybe this is what was input in my mind. Maybe it's not that. Maybe it's a culture thing. But it always goes back to race whenever I make that statement. And I think the reason why I make that statement is, in modern times, when I look globally of what's going on, I see that everyone in America, including black people, are very fortunate. Yeah. And I think, unfortunately, sometimes it's the victim mentality
that makes us think otherwise.
That makes us think otherwise. Not that racism doesn't exist. I just don't think that it's enough to hold you down forever. Like, you might experience a setback, but it's not enough to hold you down.
I see what you're saying. See, here's my take on it, because I get it. Yeah. I get what you're saying. And I understand the history behind, America. Like, I understand the American history and how race is a foundational issue that still is present, whether we see it with our eyes or not. Like, everything that was built here was built with racism in mind. You know what I mean? Let's be honest. That doesn't mean that every individual now is, but the system that is in place here it stems from that. So I get the reason why a lot of people who look like us may carry around that victim mentality and not notice it, because it's all they've heard, it's all they've known. And let's be honest, they have a right to a little bit. Like,
yeah, I get what you're saying.
They have a right. They have a right to, in the sense of like, they're entitled to have those feelings because it's just facts. It's just what happened. You know what I mean? But at the same time, I understand your statement about America being a great country now, because I think although it may be difficult for people who look like us, or more difficult because the reality is other races who their ancestors are from here, have been here, they have a foundation laid out versus us. We just started building. You know what I mean? It's not many generations that has had a foundation. So we're kind of like many steps behind in that sense. So I do believe that it's always, not always, but it's mostly going to be more difficult for people who look like us.
Yeah.
But I agree, because I don't think that's enough to hold you back. And I don't think that's enough to allow you to walk in a mentality that makes you a victim, in a sense, like placing blame, like this is why it's not happening. Even if that is why, there is a way to come out of that. Yeah.
And before we move forward, in your opinion, what is victim mentality? Like, how would someone know that they're stuck in the loop of being a victim?
Not taking accountability. In a nutshell, for me, that's what it is. I'm not saying that's what, you know what, let's pull out our handy dandy dictionary. Victim. All right. So a victim is a person harmed, injured, or killed as a result of a crime, accident, or event or action, right? So victim mentality. Let's look that up. A mindset where a person consistently sees themselves as wronged, powerless, and at the mercy of others or circumstances, blaming external factors rather than taking responsibility for their life, often stemming from trauma or learned behavior as a coping mechanism, but leading to negativity, helplessness, and stalled growth.
Yeah, I think that's perfectly worded. And that's where my issue is. I'm glad that you ended what you were saying the way you did, because I often wonder if it's explicitly race that a lot of Black people feel like, you know, they don't get their fair share. Because like I said, I felt that before, where I know people at work or just people in my regular day-to-day life where it seems like I have to try 10 times harder.
Yeah, you do.
And then
not every single time, but I mean, I've experienced it too. You definitely do.
Yeah, and as I get older, I'm starting to wonder, is it because of race, which I doubt, or is it just more so their family paved the way for them?
Yeah.
Because like if we have our own business and it's a multi-billion-dollar business,
I'm hiring everybody I know. Yeah, you get a job. You get a job.
Exactly.
Everybody
right?
get a job.
You're gonna hire people who you know, who are competent, who you trust.
Yeah.
If you're surrounded by Black people, they're so happen going to be Black people. And I think if you reverse that, that's probably what's happening.
Yeah.
Out in those office jobs or whatever career.
Yeah, and I think that's fair. I don't think there's anything wrong with that. I think the reason why it often looks as if it's racism is because certain races were held back for so long that the only reason why those races have the foundation laid is because it was withheld in the past. And we're talking about it as if like it was so long ago. Like it really wasn't that long ago. It was a couple generations. So you have to consider that. And I think that's why a lot of people will look at it and be like, yeah, it is racism because it stems from that.
Yeah,
you know what I mean? And that's
saying.
why I personally don't believe that it's the individual. I don't think that it's the individuals now that are racist. I think it's just what the results are based on what happened decades and hundreds of years ago. You know, things happen, and so a system was set in place, and now that system is not built to consider the reality that people like us had.
Yeah.
You see what I'm saying? But again, that's not a reason to sit there and place blame and not move forward.
Right.
I think that's the difference for me. So the goal is, let's not be victims. Even if we're right, even if there's a reason for how we feel, even if it's blatant in your face, just like the definition said, it's literally placing blame and not taking responsibility for what you can do. So the way I look at it now is more so like, okay, I can't get into this position because my daddy is not friends with the VP of this department.
Yeah.
That's just the reality. So what do I got to do that's going to stand apart from the rest, that's going to allow me to get into that position? I think that's really what it is. Like, work hard, work smart.
I think one of the things that separates people who have the victim mentality versus people who don't is people who have the victim mentality, they're not willing to play the game. They want to change the rules before they have any stake in the game. And I think the people who end up being successful, they look at a situation and they might say to themselves, and this is something that I've experienced where I'm a UX researcher. I've been to conferences where there's 100 people there. There's one black person, which is me, one biracial person, or sometimes I'm the only colored person in the room. And of course you start feeling like, do I fit in here and everything? Right. But one thing I'm always telling myself is once I win the game, I can change the rules.
I like that.
And I think a lot of times we fail to understand that. Like, we're born in a world where the rules are not fair.
Yeah.
We're not going to start at the same place.
So what you're saying is don't play by the rules.
No, I'm saying
play by the rules
until
you get ahead, and once you're ahead and you have that power, you change the rules.
Exactly.
Love it.
Yeah,
I love that.
You follow the rules no matter how unfair they may seem. You learn how to play the game, and then once you beat the game, you can then change the rules. You can be the first one to say, yeah, I remember when I first started, I was out of 100 people, I'm one black person. Now, I know where to market now to help more black UXers, for example, get into the field or something like that. But the victim mentality would say, I walked into this room,
I don't like the way I feel.
I don't like the way I feel. I shook hands. I could see the way they were looking at me.
Yeah.
And sometimes I think it's culture, not really race. Like, in all my jobs, right?
I actually agree.
They've invited me to their Christmas parties, and sometimes I went and I'm like, what am I doing here? Like, I'm not having fun. Like, I can't relate to you guys. And I used to think it was a race thing, but then I realized, no, it's just a culture thing. Because then times when I've met an African American or a black person who wasn't Haitian or was literally born here and just raised in American culture, he sounds a lot like them. We like to put the label as you sound white, but it's like, no, he sounds like
American.
He doesn't have any southern accent or accent from another country or something like that. If you're going to take the accent of whoever you're around. Yeah. Kind of like if you go to Jamaica and there's a lot of Asians there who sound just like the Jamaicans because that's what they're around. I think if people can just get rid of that mindset of the rules are not fair, the game's not fair, you're going to end up winning. Because again, people may be wrong, may be mad at me for saying this, but if you factor in everything that this world has to offer, I think if you're in this country, despite the racism, despite all the political stuff, I think you do have the opportunity to change the future generations. But if you keep having a victim mentality, it's just going to become the same repeatable process.
I actually agree with all that. I know you probably think I don't. Do you think I do?
I think now you do. But I remember going back and forth with you about this.
Yeah, it's probably when I had the victim mentality. Because honestly, like, I think that's the thing. And I don't think it's just in race. I think victim mentality is a legitimate issue in our generation. I think where we put the blame on every and anything but ourselves, whether that's the way we were brought up, whether it's our parents didn't have funds, whether it's, our current situation. Like, I think we're a generation of making excuses. We really like to make excuses consistently. And for me, I've decided a few years ago that, like, I want to break that. I don't want to be the person that looks at everything and everyone else as if they're the problem, but look at where I'm the problem and then make a shift that way. So when it comes to things like that, I agree with the whole playing the game, getting to where you need to be, and then changing it. Because guess what? That's exactly what I would want to do. So for me, one of the things that I noticed has allowed me to start making that shift is understanding my power. And I think oftentimes in victim mentality, the reason why we do it is because we don't believe in our power or we're not aware of our power. And I think understanding where you stand and standing in confidence, not cockiness or, like standing in confidence and knowing what's within you and what you are, who you are, it allows you to move differently. And I've now adapted that mindset, or at least I'm trying to keep on adapting that mindset where, the rules are not fair. Because, let's be honest. I feel like they never fair. The rules are not fair, but what can I do to create the reality that I want for myself? So with that being said, I'm going to read out some of the tips that they gave in order to stop victim mentality and to overcome it. One, take responsibility. Accountability, I think that's number one. I feel like if you're an accountable person, it leaves less room to play victim because you don't have room to blame anybody else for your issues or whatever the case is. Challenge negative thoughts, change victim-focused thoughts, and consciously replace them with empowering, self-compassionate statements. Practice gratitude. Okay, these are very... your favorite line. They're very cliche. Yeah. Let's go a little deeper. Let's see what else is out there. Hold on. Shift from powerlessness to empowerment by taking responsibility. Focusing on what you can control. I think that's important. So you can control your reactions, you can control your actions, but you can't control your surroundings at all times, especially if we're talking about like the workplace, right? You can't control who you work with all the time, but you can control how you interact with them. And that's something I've also included in my life, not just in work, because obviously I'm not working a 9 to 5 like that, but I've adapted that just in general, like people that, I may not be cool with, but like, how can I shift the way that I operate around you in order to create a more cordial and a cool space? And another one that I liked was identifying patterns, because sometimes most of us and most of y'all watching too, along with me, don't know you operate in victim mentality, because I didn't know for a long time until I started looking at things and I'm like, well, why is there always an excuse on why something can't happen? Why not just take action to make it happen? So identify the patterns.
One thing that helped me is to understand that the people who are out there who I'm competing against for a job, for example, they don't have as much as a advantage as I think they do. This was fresh out of college. I went to this conference and some guy, a white guy in a suit. When I first saw him, I'm like, you're going to get the job. Like, you just look like you fit in and whatever. I sat next to him. I spoke to him briefly. We just so happened to sit next to each other. I saw his resume. I got a glimpse of his resume, and I think he had a PhD and all that. He was way more educated than I was. But here he was in the same spot looking for a job. And that humbled me to understand that sometimes we think like white people or another race just have the red carpet rolled out for them. When the reality is a lot of them are struggling like we are. Or like when the whole thing of Medicare and Medicaid was an issue a few months ago, people say, it'll target black people unfairly. All the video clips was of black people. When the government shut down, that's what it was, of black people complaining about not getting their EBT and everything. And somebody pointed out saying, most people on EBT are white people. But the perception given is
that it's black people.
It's black people that need that handout, that have the victim mentality. I listened to this conversation one time on YouTube. This guy who was a multimillionaire, he was sitting across the table from a lot of young people who were complaining about the system. And this one guy sat across him and said, I literally sent out, I think he said like 1,000 applications and no one got back to him. Because he was trying to say like capitalism doesn't work or whatever. The multimillionaire said, I'll give you a job. And the guy rejected it.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, so it made me realize that sometimes people who have the victim mentality, I think they're really looking for an excuse why they shouldn't put in the effort. Unfortunately, I think if that's you, you're always going to find
something. Yeah,
absolutely. You're always going to find something, because unless you think that you're just cursed and then you have bigger issues, the universe is not working against you.
Yeah.
You just haven't found what you needed to find yet.
Right. Or you haven't woken up.
Yeah, that too. That too.
Yeah, that part.
With that said, honestly, just look at your own life. And the question I think we shared this before on a podcast that I ask myself is, if someone offered me $1 million to do it, would I do it? Would I get it done? If the answer is yes, and I'm not doing it, I'm making excuses. If the answer is no, then I have valid reasons why I can't do it.
And you can still work through that.
Right.
Yeah, love it. And we're out. Thank you for spending your time with us. We hope you gained some knowledge today that'll promote poise in your life. We have new episodes uploaded every Thursday right here, same place, same time. Until next time, you can follow us on Instagram at NOIRPOISED Podcast to stay connected. That's NOIRPOISED Podcast. We'd love to hear your feedback.
And remember, your wisdom is power.